So there are two stories that, if we understood them better, would greatly help us in our personal journeys and in this whole mess of a culture that we find ourselves in. The trouble is that these stories come from the Christian canon, and so many people are resistant to them just for that. I'm not going to speak about these stories as a Christian. I'm not a Christian in the traditional sense. I'm a Christian in the Gnostic sense, which means that I am also a Sufi and a Buddhist and a Taoist and an atheist and just a dude. Put aside all of the Christian stuff for a second. If we explore these stories, we get a very rich source of treasure. And these stories have to do with our fall, both our celestial fall and our earthly fall. I'm going to start with the first one, with the celestial fall, because this precedes the earthly fall. And this is, of course, the fall of Lucifer, the highest of God's angels. Now, Lucifer, in some stories and some myths, has symbols on his hand, symbols as in like the things that you hit, like the monkey, that claps its hands together, those kind of symbols. And he has those on his hands in order to praise the creation. So he's gifted with very lucid awareness, and he is the one that falls. And Christians, colloquially, will not explore this at all because it brings up that really deep fear in them and that identity base and hell. And if you even start to let in these ideas, they'll contaminate you in some way. But we need to pay attention to that part of the story very much. Lucifer loves the creation. It is what he was created by God to do. And he falls. And everybody is very content, especially the Christians. And everybody in institutionalized religion, for the most part, to say, oh God, he turned away from God. Oh, what a monster. If you're having that reaction, I just ask you to breathe for a minute, or, you can go away. But if you're not having that reaction, I invite you to come deeper in with me. Lucifer is made to praise the creation and loves the creation, and he is now king of hell. What happened? Well, one might think he and God had some disagreements. Can you imagine that? Do you and God have disagreements?
Do you have some disagreements with how things are?
Or do you deny them and hide behind faith? My sense is that Lucifer was very compassionate towards the creation, and he wrestled with God. Because how can this suffering be? How could a wise God create this suffering? Helplessness, innocence, malevolence, dominance, violence. You don't want to imagine it, but because we don't imagine it, it happens. And I'm going to connect this to a story that Ram Dass likes to tell, being in the midst of, deep, deep suffering.
He goes to his teacher, Maharaji, and Maharaji says,
This is going to trigger a lot of people. It's triggered. But Ram Dass, don't you see that it's all perfect? And that impulse and that instinct right there that rises up, that says, how could this be perfect, is exactly what Lucifer said. And don't get me wrong, I'm not demonizing you, because I really love Lucifer too. And I love him deeply enough to try to understand him as a being. It's hard not to weep for him in his icy domain, where his wings, constantly flapping, keep him entrenched in ice. So don't you see how it's all perfect? And I'm not. I definitely have my conflicts with it. But more and more I'm trying to seed the part of me that believes that it knows a better way. And no, I don't believe that better way is in compliance and servitude. Absolutely not. I believe it is in awakening, in individuating, as Carl Jung said it, in becoming oneself and being redeemed and being redeemed. And what I've found is that as I've started to contemplate not just this mythological figure of Lucifer, but as he exists in me, because he is a transpersonal figure. He is a mythological figure. And this is why if you throw out religion without any sort of critical awareness, you lose sight of its redemptive aspect. You lose sight of the fact that it is a story that we as a culture have told ourselves. And I understand the want to push away and to tear away from that culture, but it contains all of our roots as well. Does not mean you have to be a Christian and subscribe to Jesus and this is the one way, because quite frankly, that isn't Christianity. Well, I guess that is Christianity, but it's not Gnosticism, which is the true Christianity. Yeah, I said it. And nothing gets us entrenched. Nothing gets us more worked up than our concepts of the divine. So this is going to be the theme in the next video as well. There's a redemptive aspect to this. And we can't just contemplate Lucifer as a mythological figure because he does exist in us. There is that place in us where we say, no, this isn't right. And I say, listen to that voice, because you're right. It isn't right. Something is amiss here. And it requires your deepest awakening, and it requires, like Dante in the Inferno, crawling over the hairy body of Dis, over the hairy body of Lucifer, i.e., the psychotic moment in your life, the central split in your psyche that set you apart from creation. And this separation is meant to happen. It is not a sin. And this is what we'll explore with the Eden story. It is part of the plan. It is part of consciousness, of this ongoing experience that is happening. And if we crawl over that body, over our deepest traumas, over our most cherishedly held beliefs, over our sense of ourself, there is magic there. There is divine union. And there is the work, the play, that you have to and get to undertake, because it's both. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And develop your discernment very much.